Hey guys! Part 13 of What If Naruto Was Haunted by Obito's Ghost. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start! Chapter 59, Naruto's Return. Obito's new weapon. Naruto placed a brief smile on his face, then hurried over to Kakashi. Kakashi was currently leaning against the wall, a shocked expression on his face. A chair was knocked onto the ground, ropes pulling around it. Are you alright? Naruto said worriedly. You don't have a tail or something, right? Kakashi stared at Naruto in disbelief. A tail? Had to ask. Naruto muttered. You never know with Orochimaru. Where's the seal? Seal? Kakashi repeated. He was still in a minor state of shock. The chakra-inhibiting seal. I'm assuming that Orochimaru put one on you. Naruto said impatiently, tapping his foot. Oh. Yes. It's on my leg. Kakashi quickly blurted out, his jonin training finally kicking in. He gave a slight cough, trying to regain some of his dignity. Well, as much dignity he could have after around a week stuck in a small room and tied to a chair most of the time. And after being struck speechless and seeing Naruto, who was rescuing him, not to mention the fact that his own student was rescuing him. Not my student. Kakashi mentally corrected. He's just another Konoha ninja now, an equal. You're still the leader of Team 7, even if technically you're not their teacher since they're all Chunin and Jonin now. Naruto's a Chunin. Kakashi suppressed a wince at the thought. I'm never going to hear the end of this from the other Jonin, am I? Oh, just forget about that for now. I'm escaping, that's what's important. Naruto ripped off the seal with an irritated look on his face. Can I mention that I hate these seals? Naruto muttered. Echoing explosions could be heard, some distant and some slightly closer. Did you do some distractions, or is that Orochimaru? Kakashi demanded, enjoying the fact that he could actually use his chakra for the first time in a little over a week. Not that there was anything to use it for right now, but it was the fact that he could that was important. Me. Aren't superpowered, multicolored explosions a wonderful thing? Naruto said cheerfully, holding out his hand to Kakashi. Take it. We need to get back pretty quickly, before the explosions get closer. Multicolored? Kakashi raised an eyebrow, but grabbed the hand. On second thought, he probably shouldn't have bothered asking. This was Naruto. Naruto gave him another brief smile of amusement, before taking a deep breath. I really need to practice taking other people with the Hiraishin. Naruto murmured softly, before doing the technique. Kakashi felt the rather strange feeling of being flattened, and returning to his normal state. His surroundings faded from the grim walls of Orochimaru's hideout to the Hokage's office. More specifically, right on top of Obito, Naruto looked around with unexpected cheerfulness. Hey, I'm getting better at this taking people along with me thing, Naruto exclaimed. Then he noticed Sakura's murderous look. Presumably for doing something that was, maybe a little stupid. Just a little. Naruto fell to the ground and pretended to be unconscious. Unfortunately, as he was still on Obito, that meant his head hit Obito's arm. Obito reflexively pushed Naruto and Kakashi off. Impressively, Naruto managed to stay limp and pretend to be unconscious. Kakashi stood up and dusted himself off, then collapsed to the floor. Extended periods in Orochimaru's presence could do that. Obito's mouth widened in slight surprise and he quickly crawled over to Kakashi. Are you alright? Obito asked Kakashi worriedly. No, stupid question. We need to get you to the hospital. He turned around and looked at the fallen form of Naruto. And Naruto, stop pretending to be unconscious. It's not going to save you from Sakura. Damn. I knew I should have Hiraishin straight to the hospital. Naruto muttered, turning around and sitting up. Can I justify my reasons at least before I die? I'm not going to kill you, Sakura said matter-of-factly. Okay, you're going to beat me up badly then? Naruto decided. No. Sakura groaned. Hurt me badly? Naruto asked. By this point, it was obvious that he was merely joking. Do you really think that bad of me? Sakura demanded, crossing her arms. There was a short moment of silence. I'm going to tactfully not answer that question, Naruto said cheerfully. I'm going to scold you sternly once we get Kakashi to the hospital, Sakura said insistently. Oh, really? Naruto said cheerfully. That's better than I thought it would be. Obito looked at Naruto with an obviously malicious smile. Do you really think Sakura's the only one you have to worry about? Sasuke had a typical apathetic look on his face, but he was twirling a kunai in his hand. Tsunade smiled, though there was nothing cheerful about it. She punched the desk, breaking it neatly into two. Naruto blanched. Kazekage-sama. A young ninja ran into the Kazekage's office through the door. The Kazekage's office was a large circular room. There were small circular windows on the walls, and a small desk near one edge of the room. Behind the desk, the current Kazekage, Gaara, was sitting down. He had a calm look on his face as he regarded the ninja that had raced into his room. He got used to ninja randomly running into his office after a few years as Kazekage. Yes? Gaara asked politely. The ninja paused to take a deep breath. There was. Gaara didn't lose his temper. If it were something important, the ninja would spit it out sooner rather than later. There was a huge explosion near the sandfire border. The ninja eventually sputtered out. He finally explained what had him in such a state. A huge explosion. Gaara repeated, prompting the ninja to continue. Yes. The ninja exclaimed. Really huge, I see. And what was the cause of this huge explosion? Gaara demanded. Clearly, this ninja was in need of a bit more prompting than he had originally thought. I don't know. The ninja admitted. But it was big. And colorful. And what my student means to say is that we believe that the explosion may be connected to the Akatsuki that have been spotted passing through the country. A voice interrupted smoothly. Another ninja entered the room, a tall man. I apologize for Sajui's antics, Kazekage-sama. While he is quite fast, he tends to get excited easily. It's fine, Hokori. Gaara said calmly. Could you elaborate on what happened? My team and I were coming back from a C-ranked mission in the Land of Rock, Hokori explained. When we spotted a gigantic explosion a kilometer or two from where we stood. It was quite large. Yes, I believe I've understood that the explosion was big. Gaara said, amazingly keeping his composure. Continue. It was quite colorful as well. Hokori continued. Colorful? Gaara repeated in disbelief. Yes, colorful. Literally. It was a rainbow of flames. Hokori explained. I see. Gaara stated, shooting Hokori with a freezing look. Usually that would be enough to get the recipient to hurry up and get to the point, and or say something useful. Not this time, however. After most of the flames had died down, we went closer. Hokori said. But what was interesting was the fact that the area seemed to have collapsed inwards, as if there were tunnels. Gaara murmured. He was privately thankful that Hokori had finally gotten to the point. And there were no tunnels recorded there. My other student has gone to check the Suna library for any record of tunnels in that area. Hokori answered. She should be here soon. I see. And the connection with the Akatsuki? Gaara asked, looking at Hokori with an apathetic look. It seems as though that is the most likely. Hokori explained. Still, we should not make assumptions. Gaara decided. Perhaps we should contact Konoha about this. The explosion was located on the sandfire border, correct? Yes. Hokori nodded. At that moment, a young kunoichi entered the room. Hokori-sensei! The kunoichi exclaimed. There weren't any tunnels recorded in the maps, as I thought. Hokori nodded. What should we do, Kazekage-sama? You and your team may leave. Gaara said, dismissing the three of them with a wave of his hand. I will expect a full mission report from you soon, Hokori. Very well. Hokori nodded. We will take our leave. The three of them swiftly left the room. If Gaara were the typical person, he would have groaned at the thought of the paperwork that would most definitely be involved with this sort of case. As he was Gaara, he merely twitched his lips in a downwards fashion. He stood up and strode towards the door. He needed to find his assistant. 2 days had passed since the now semi-infamous Don't Worry, Naruto's Still an Idiot mission. Abbreviated as the DWNSAI mission, it relieved most of the Rookie 9 who were kind of worried about Naruto. And basically anybody who knew Naruto. After all, he came back from the training trip smart and stronger. While the strength wasn't much of a surprise, the semi-smartness was. It was a relief that the Naruto they knew was still most definitely an idiot. In the reckless sense, that is. Needless to say, no one said the unofficial name of the mission in front of Naruto himself. Scratch that, it was official. Tsunade herself put that name on the mission report she had spitefully made Naruto do. Naruto had attempted to argue that Tsunade had given her permission to go. Tsunade had pointed out that Naruto had more or less blackmailed her into letting him go. And if he wanted to insist that much that it was official, then he should have no problems doing a mission report. Naruto had shot back that he should receive mission pay then. Tsunade had given him 1 ryo. This mission was also made into a lesson for the academy students. Iruka took great pleasure in teaching the students that even if the results are satisfactory, it is a severely bad idea to go against your commanding officer. Iruka's various stories of Naruto were probably enough to scare the students to listen to their commanding officer's orders without question, which, if he really thought about it, was kind of a bad idea. But Iruka figured they would grow out of it. Probably. Meanwhile, in a relatively large room in the Hokage Tower, a large bird landed. This room was the room where messages were sent and received to and from different villages. Every village had their own distinctive type of bird, for easy recognition. Birds from different countries were prioritized, as it was unusual for separate countries to converse with each other for trivial reasons, and the bird that had just landed in Konoha was most definitely from Sunigakure, of the Land of Wind. A young kunoichi took the scroll from the bird and opened it. The shinobi working in the mailroom were authorized for various levels of security. All scrolls were required to be marked with a mark from the international security system, so the mail openers knew which scrolls they were authorized to open. The kunoichi skimmed through the letter, noting the dear Hokage-sama on top and the sincerely, the fifth Kazekage, Gaara of the Sand on the bottom. Hey! The kunoichi yelled out. Someone take this letter to Tsunade-sama. Another shinobi ran up and accepted the scroll. He hurried out of the room and headed towards the Hokage's office. Things were as efficient as possible in the mail room. Tsunade acknowledged the messenger with a slight nod as she accepted the scroll. She dismissed the messenger with a wave of her hand. She opened the scroll and scanned the letter carefully. Dear Hokage-sama, although you may not be aware, there was a large explosion 2 days ago. Tsunade's eyes widened. Where? She muttered. It was located on the Windfire border, and according to a sand team who witnessed this spectacle, wasn't the typical explosion. It apparently was a colorful explosion. Tsunade reread the last line. She opened one of the drawers on her desk where she kept the mission reports she hadn't gotten around to reading yet. She took out Naruto's mission report and checked for any mention of an explosion. It was there. The report clearly stated that before I left, I had my shadow clones attach explosion tags everywhere. Tsunade groaned. I hope you don't cause an international incident. It would be useful if you had any information about this incident. Also, the Akatsuki have been briefly spotted in the Land of Wind. While it is uncertain where they were and are heading, I would suggest informing Naruto to be careful. Better and better. Tsunade murmured. Sincerely, the fifth Kazekage, Gaara of the Sand. Tsunade let out a gusty sigh and picked up a brush. Dear Kazekage-sama, Obito stood in front of a store situated in a busy street. The storefront consisted of 2 windows, each displaying a weapon. In between the 2 windows, there was a rather bland beige color. He took a breath and tentatively opened the door. A bell rang, clearly echoing through the store. Welcome! A cheerful voice cried. A robust man walked out from behind the counter. What are you looking for today? The Chunin kunai and shuriken set, please. Obito answered, looking around the store. It was covered with weapons. Hey, what's that? He pointed towards what seemed like a watch. It looks like a watch. Obito commented. First time here, is it? The man said, his tone still quite cheerful. I'm Hui. And my weapons store is semi-famous for stocking unusual weapons. Unusual weapons? Obito said, his eyes betraying his surprise. Yes. For example, yes, that's a watch. Hui explained, walking over to grab the watch. But if you channel a bit of chakra in this thing, a silver mass of threads flew out of the watch, straight towards Obito. Obito dodged the mass, which was now evidently a net. Sorry. Hui apologized, a red tinge coloring his cheeks. I didn't think. No problem. Obito said nervously. If anything brushed against his chest with too much pressure, he would end up coughing blood. And what about that glass of water over there? Obito asked curiously. That's just a glass of water. Hui deadpanned. Oh. Obito stated. And I guess that yo-yo is just a yo-yo? Oh no. Hui shook his head, the cheerfulness entering his voice again. That's one of my more interesting creations, though one of the less useful. The string is metal and made out of the same metal as chakra blades. Chakra blades? Oh, those blades that remade out of metal that make it easier to channel chakra through? Obito recalled. Yes. The end piece is designed to shoot out small needles when it comes in contact with chakra. Hui continued proudly. Not that useful if they were just needles, but if you stick tranquilizer or poison on them. Whoa. Obito's eye was shining. That's so cool. Why is it not that useful? It's pretty hard to use. Hui explained. You need a whole lot of practice, and it's not exactly light. How much? Obito asked, his eyes still shining. You want it? Hui said with surprise. I might not use it, but it seems so cool. Obito grinned. Hui laughed. Tell you what. I'll give it to you for a discount, but under one condition. What? Obito asked, looking at Hui hopefully. That you use it, Hui said with insistence. But how the heck am I supposed to use it? Obito asked, looking at the yo-yo. I was thinking about getting a sword, eventually, if I could find anyone to teach me how to use it. You're that Uchiha that appeared out of nowhere a few years back, right? Hui asked. Obito blinked. Yeah? How'd you know? My daughter knows you, and that high-tight wearing style is quite distinctive. And as you're not Hatake Kakashi. Hui trailed off. I have to be Uchiha Obito. Obito finished. I get it. But what does that have to do with anything? If you used a sword, unless your opponent used a sword as well, the typical ninja would try to stay away from you. Hui pointed out. Isn't that a bad thing for you, since you have the Sharingan, and it's easier to get eye contact close up? Good point. Obito murmured, starting to pace the room. I didn't think of it like that. But I thought you said that you made it? Does anyone actually know how to use it? Well, I do. Hui answered. Obito paused for a moment, then sighed. Oh, whatever. Obito groaned. It's not like I have anything better to do, and I have some money left over from the last few missions I did. How much? Hui smiled. Chapter 60. Naruto's Research. Obito's yo-yo training. Naruto groaned and hung upside down from his chair. His hair barely touched the floor, and he threw the scroll back onto the simple table. This is stupid! Naruto cried out, relatively loudly. A glare was promptly shot at Naruto. He closed his mouth and sent an apologetic look back. Naruto was currently sitting in the library. It wasn't his favorite spot, especially when he just couldn't find what he was trying to find, namely, any information about the Rasengan. But because of the sheer lack of any scrolls and or books about the subject, he had given up quite a while ago. He had gone on to searching for interesting scrolls about sealing. There was also an irritating lack of those scrolls as well, though there were a few somewhat engaging ones. Naruto sighed and sat up from his chair. He pushed it back, trying to make as little noise as possible. He didn't want to be kicked out of the library, again. Not that there's any useful information here. Naruto thought irritably, making his way to the door. He shot a grin at the librarian, hoping to get back in her good books. The librarian, who was the very epitome of a stereotypical librarian, simply glared at Naruto from below her glasses. She returned to her book, completely ignoring him. Naruto scowled slightly, but wasn't deterred. Hey, he was used to a couple glares or two. Well, perhaps a few more than a couple. He shook his head, trying to get himself back on topic. Enough about sealing for now. Naruto decided, taking a step outside the library. He winced as the bright sun hit his eyes. Naruto quenched the childish desire to yell, it's burning, and continued on walking down the street. He had browsed through most of the bookstores in Konoha for the past week. He had finally hit the library, in the dubious hope that there would be something useful. While perhaps there might have been something useful in the library, Naruto was only a chunin. There was a limit to what he could view in the library. Naruto had the sneaking feeling that the only reason he wasn't already a jonin was because of his tendency to not listen to his superiors, and his tendency to, jump into things. Nevertheless, his access to certain library books and scrolls were limited. What he was doing exactly? He wanted to know more about the Rasengan. After poking and prodding at Sasuke about his new technique, he finally admitted that he had to ask Kakashi about how Kakashi had created the technique before being able to adjust it. As such, he had promptly started his research on the Rasengan. His irritably non-useful research on the Rasengan. Erosenin's not here, so there's no one I can talk to who knows the Rasengan. Naruto mused to himself, rolling his eyes at the thought of Erosenin. And the thought of him doing something perverted yet again. Wait a second, Naruto murmured to himself, stopping in the middle of the street. We're allowed to visit Kakashi-sensei starting from today, aren't we? He nodded and grinned, heading towards the hospital. If Kakashi-sensei doesn't know anything, I'm just going to brainstorm by myself to figure out how to make the Rasengan better. Naruto decided, a scowl forming on his face for a brief moment. Naruto walked into the hospital, smiling at the receptionist. The receptionist didn't smile back. He had enough trouble with Naruto sneaking out of the hospital to not have a nice impression of Naruto. Yes? The receptionist asked, looking at Naruto with barely concealed distaste. Do you know what room Hatake Kakashi is in? Naruto asked. Yes. The receptionist answered. Naruto waited for a moment, then realized that the receptionist wasn't going to talk. Can you tell me what room Hatake Kakashi is in? Naruto asked again. Yes. The receptionist replied, clearly finding this ridiculously amusing. Naruto waited for yet another moment, then resisted the urge to groan. What room is Hatake Kakashi in? Naruto demanded, his eyes flashing. The receptionist sighed, disappointed that he couldn't avoid a direct question like that. He's in room 248. That's on floor, the receptionist reluctantly answered. -2. Naruto cut in. Yes, I know. He quickly left the front hall and headed towards the second floor. After a couple minutes of walking, he easily reached Kakashi's hospital room. He pushed open the door, his hand raised in greeting. Hi, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto grinned. Kakashi was sitting up in his bed, reading a familiar green-covered book. His eyes didn't go up from his book as he murmured a greeting back. So, I have a question. Naruto trailed off, sitting on a chair next to Kakashi's bed. Kakashi sighed and put his book down. He looked up at Naruto. What is it? It's about the Rasengan. Do you know anything about it? Naruto asked hopefully. I suppose I do. Kakashi answered, a slightly confused look in his eye. Why? Sasuke's been shoving it in my face in his own way that he's improved the Chidori, and I haven't improved the Rasengan. Naruto explained. Stupid considering the fact that I've got a whole lot more of actual techniques. A smirk floated onto Naruto's face. Those cat ears and whiskers only disappeared after 5 days. Naruto recalled. It was hilarious. Kakashi wisely decided he didn't want to know. So, then I showed him my Urama Rasengan. Naruto continued on. You have a big ball Rasengan? Kakashi cut in. It's not my fault I have bad naming sense. Naruto muttered. Anyways, I don't use it much since it uses more chakra and most of the time the regular Rasengan works just as well, but technically it's classified as an improvement of the Rasengan, and I assumed that Sasuke didn't take it that way? Kakashi sighed. The rivalry between the two of them was so tiring sometimes. But then again, this would be a good chance for Naruto to perhaps complete the Rasengan. I'm sure he would have taken it that way if I had shoved it in his stomach. Naruto muttered murderously. Now I highly suggest you don't kill your teammate and friend. Kakashi cautioned, stressing the friend. I wouldn't really kill him. Naruto objected, looking unsincere. Kakashi sighed slightly. Let's go back to the topic. The Rasengan, was it? Yes. Naruto nodded, scowling. I spent a whole week looking for books and scrolls about the Rasengan, but I found practically nothing. And I have no idea where to start. Well, first things first, Naruto, do you know that the Rasengan is basically change in chakra form taken to the highest level? Kakashi asked. What? Naruto said with surprise. Seriously? I didn't realize, but now that you mention it sort of makes sense. Naruto trailed off, a pensive look on his face. Wait, change in chakra form is the part of a technique that changes the form of chakra in a technique, or something like that, right? Naruto clarified. Yes, that's exactly it. It is called change in chakra form. Kakashi nodded. But I won't tell you anymore. What? Naruto said in disbelief. I have the sneaking feeling if I tell you now you're going to end up dying of chakra exhaustion trying to finish the technique. Kakashi pointed out dryly, picking up his book, but Naruto objected. I'll be out of the hospital in a week. Apparently my insides are a mess, but it's nothing they can't heal. Kakashi explained. Besides, you always insist that you're smart, don't you? I'm sure you won't be idiotic enough to do so much training you completely run out of chakra, right? Kakashi let Naruto muse that over for a moment, then said the cinching phrase. I'm sure Sasuke wouldn't do something like that. Kakashi said, his eye crinkling into an arc. Naruto scowled, standing back up. Fine. I'll wait. He flipped around and stormed out of the hospital room. Kakashi sighed and leaned back on his pillow. His eyes were still on his book, but he couldn't concentrate on the antics of Olga and Kanaida. I hope he doesn't do anything stupid. Kakashi thought with little hope. Sakura had a small frown on her face as she entered Training Ground 52. Her day wasn't going too well. To start out with, she couldn't find any of her teammates. Naruto was probably either eating ramen or training, Obito was who knows where, and Sasuke was probably either training or brooding. To make things worse, she went to 5 different training areas, and they all were being used already. Sakura groaned as she saw the figure punching a tree. The figure turned around, revealing a familiar face. Ino? Sakura said, surprise in her voice. Hi, Sakura. Ino greeted, pausing his training. I'll be going. Sakura said, sighing. Hope the training area next to this one isn't being used. No, wait. Ino said. Do you want to train together? I was looking for someone to train with anyways. Sakura blinked, then walked towards Ino. A relieved smile was on her face. Thanks. I've visited 5 training areas today, and not even one was free. Oh, bad luck. Ino murmured. She got into one of the more simple taijutsu stance. Taijutsu duel, then? Sure. Sakura answered, getting into a taijutsu stance as well. Ino made the first move. She jabbed at Sakura with her hand. Sakura dodged the hand easily, then ducked as Ino jabbed at her again. Sakura kicked out her foot, trying to hit Ino's ankle. Ino backed up, avoiding the kick. But Sakura followed the kick with a punch straight to the stomach. Ino flew through the air, heading straight for a thick tree trunk. She took a split second to flip around and land back on her feet. Sakura raced towards Ino, her arms ready to hit her. Ino brought up her hands and stood in a defensive stance. She blocked Sakura's jab with a wince of pain, then jumped back straight into mud puddle. She slipped and fell, covering herself with brown splashes of mud. Ino spat out a bit of mud. Sakura laughed brightly and walked up to Ino. She held out a hand. Want to try again? Ino reluctantly took the hand and stood back up. Fine. But this time we're using jutsu as well. Sakura still had a smile on her face. Sure. Naruto paced around in his apartment, biting his lip, as if I'm going to just sit around and wait for Kakashi-sensei to get out of the hospital. Naruto thought, forcing himself to stop pacing. His foot continued on, unconsciously tapping the floor. Now let me think. So, Rasengan is the highest form of change in chakra form, right? So that must be significant somehow. Wait a second, I think I read something about this as a book somewhere. Something about making techniques. Naruto walked over to his bookshelf and took out a book aptly titled Making Techniques. The how, the what, the why. He took a glance at the table of contents, and quickly found the chapter he was looking for. Naruto carefully read the introduction to the chapter. It outlined how the best techniques were made by combining change in chakra nature and change in chakra form. A feral smile slowly spread across Naruto's face. So, Naruto murmured. This is what Kakashi-sensei was talking about. Obito threw the yo-yo up and down in his hand. He was standing in a small training ground with we. You were right when you said it was heavy. Obito commented, his hand stinging slightly. We smiled. Now, first I'll teach you how to open this thing. Open? Obito said with confusion. Yes. We said. Put the yo-yo down. Obito shrugged and placed it down onto a tree stump in front of him. Now you see this blue dot right here? In the red stripe? We asked rhetorically. Now you take a kunai. He lifted up a kunai and pushed it into the blue dot. The yo-yo sprung open, revealing many circular compartments holding needles of medium length. Obito's eye shone. No matter what people say, yo-yos are cool. Especially this one. We laughed. Now you see, once you run out of needles you just refill it by opening up this compartment. You see how there's 3 different strings for the yo-yo? Obito gave a nod. Each one connects to a different compartment. The string with the red ring connects to the normal needles. The green ring connects to the thicker needles. We explained. And the blue ring connects to the chakra needles. Chakra needles? Obito repeated, hoping for clarification. You see this seal here? We asked, pointing at one of the compartments. Yeah. Obito answered, looking at the compartment in question. It took me a while for me to find someone who could do a seal like this, but I eventually did. We said cheerfully. I don't understand the mechanics that well, but basically it converts your chakra into a needle, then forces it out as new chakra flows in. So, while the normal needles need to be refilled often, the chakra needles make sure that the weapon is never completely useless. Obito asked. Basically, yes. We nodded. Obito looked at the needle compartments with interest. Hey, could I put something else in here, for example? We inquired. Rolled up explosion tags. Obito said. I suppose it would be possible. But it would be best to roll it around an actual needle, or the tag won't go anywhere. We answered. Got it. Obito nodded. Now how do I close this thing? All you have to do is push it together. We replied, doing just that. The yo-yo went back together with a loud click. Now what are we going to do? Obito asked impatiently. We handed the yo-yo back to Obito. First things first, practice using the yo-yo. Without chakra. Obito nodded. Try to hit that tree over there. We said, pointing at a tree. That tree? Obito asked, pointing at a different tree. No, whatever. Yes, that tree. We sighed. There's too many trees here. Which string should I use? Obito demanded, looking at the 3 round rings available for use. It doesn't matter. We replied, leaning against a tree trunk. Just make sure that you don't use your chakra. Obito put up his hand and threw the yo-yo towards the tree. It didn't get anywhere near. In fact, the weight of the yo-yo made it hit the ground halfway to the tree. What? Obito complained. This is impossible. Exactly. Lesson 1. Without chakra, the yo-yo's useless. Hui said condescendingly. You see, the chakra gives the yo-yo the necessary push to get the yo-yo where it needs to be. You could have told me that in the first place. Obito muttered, walking over to the yo-yo. Lesson 2. By channeling chakra into the string, and sharply pulling back your hand, the yo-yo automatically returns to your hand. Hui called out. Obito scowled as he picked up the yo-yo. You could have told me that in the first place as well. Hui smiled cheerfully. Obito walked back to Hui, fuming. What now? Lesson 3. The yo-yo goes in the direction you want by channeling chakra into one of the strings, and throwing the yo-yo. Hui explained. Obito placed his finger into the blue ring, then channeled chakra into the string. The whole yo-yo glowed a shade of light blue. Now try to hit that tree again, Hui suggested. Obito narrowed his eye, then threw the yo-yo. Blue needles shot out of the yo-yo, hitting various trees and the ground. They embedded themselves in the things they hit. The yo-yo itself hit the edge of the tree trunk and burrowed its way right through. The remnants of Obito's irritation faded away as he stared at the neat hole in the tree trunk. Whoa! Obito murmured. Now that's cool. You see, it's not too hard to aim, Hui explained. It's the other part that's hard. Other part? Obito asked curiously. Well, while it's impossible to control the metal needles, it's possible to control the chakra needles, Hui said. Huh! How in the world is that possible? Obito asked. Hui held out his hand, obviously asking for the yo-yo. Obito reluctantly handed it over. He channeled chakra into the yo-yo and threw it towards a tree. Blue needles flew out of the yo-yo, but this time they didn't hit things randomly. All of them hit the tree, utterly obliterating the middle of the tree trunk. This is the result of years of training, Hui said, enjoying the look on Obito's face. It had been a while since he taught someone who actually was genuinely interested in what he taught. However, you have the Sharingan, Obito scowled. I'm not using my Sharingan. That's cheating. Hui raised his eyebrow, surprise evident on his face. Well, that's a view that most Uchiha didn't share. I'm not most Uchiha, Obito muttered, crossing his arms. I agree that you may be justified in not wanting to use the Sharingan to take techniques that other people took a long time to master, Hui said. But I'm giving you express permission to do this. Besides, it's a waste of my time and yours if you refuse to use your Kekkei Genkai. Obito sighed, looking terribly unhappy. Fine, I know it's stupid, Obito thought, reluctantly activating his Sharingan. But the Uchiha were a bunch of stuck-up they were stuck up. I always tried to find as many ways as possible to distance my personality and myself from that superiority complex, and not using the Sharingan to copy every single technique I saw helped do just that. Kakashi told me that it would help my training, and told me to stop being so stubborn. Sasuke called me an Uchiha Naruto. I think he meant it as an insult, but really I don't care. Obito sighed again. This is my chance. I have to get over my downright refusal to copy techniques on purpose. I mean, sometimes I can't help but copy them. I have to get over this mental block. Or whatever. He was jolted out of his musings by a sharp "Are you listening?" from Hui. Yes, Obito answered. Now I want you to learn this chakra controlling technique, Hui said, looking skeptical. It's one of the more advanced chakra controlling techniques. I'll perform it right now. Hui lifted up a finger, and a blob of blue chakra was formed around the finger. It floated up from the finger and zipped around his hand before dissipating. You try now, Hui said. Obito lifted up a finger and channeled chakra into it. With some effort, he managed to make it float up and around his finger. I want you to practice this every day. This is something that you need to be able to do in your sleep, Hui ordered. He looked up at the sky. We'll stop here today. Obito fished around in his pouch and handed Hui some money. When next? In a week's time. I expect you to have this down perfectly, Hui said sternly, taking the money. Obito grinned. Got it. Now for something that hasn't happened in a while. Shinobi Zukan Orange. Hey, anyone feel like figuring out when the last omake was? Gaara opened up the scroll that he had just received. It had a red line on the edge, showing that it was for the Kazekage's eyes only. Dear Kazekage-sama, I'm afraid to tell you that I most certainly know the cause of these explosions. Gaara blinked, staring at the letter. This is a bad sign. Gaara murmured. Recently, Hatake Kakashi, Konoha Jonin, was kidnapped by Orochimaru, missing Nin and former member of the Akatsuki. Hatake Kakashi. Gaara thought out loud. Naruto's sensei? Uzumaki Naruto, Konoha Chunin, unfortunately decided to recklessly race into Orochimaru's hideout to rescue his sensei, Hatake Kakashi, from Orochimaru. Oh dear. Gaara blurted out without thinking. His eyes widened and he quickly closed his mouth. He looked around carefully to make sure no one had heard the ridiculous phrase that had escaped him. There was no one there, but you could never know with ANBU. He coughed self-consciously, then continued on reading. Uzumaki Naruto soothed in saving Hatake Kakashi. No one but Naruto could do that. Gaara murmured, lost in thought. Then a single thought burst through his reverie. Wait, a Chunin saved a Jonin? Who had fortunately not been harmed too much. Konoha ninja must be losing their touch. Gaara commented. Before leaving the hideout, Uzumaki Naruto had planted several dozen of his own personally modified explosion tags. Personally modified? Gaara said, shock tinging his voice. If he had eyebrows, then he would have raised them. As such, he had to settle with widening his eyes. A sand shinobi opened the door. Kazekage-sama? Is something wrong? No. Gaara answered, resisting the urge to send the shinobi an icy glare. Just talking to myself. That, is the first sign of insanity, the shinobi muttered quietly. Gaara stopped resisting his urge and shot the shinobi an icy glare. The shinobi yelped and left the room. Gaara smiled creepily and continued on reading, causing the colorful explosions that was witnessed. Uzumaki Naruto meant no harm and meant no disrespect to the country of Wind or Sunagakure. He was merely attempting to hinder Orochimaru, Konoha's rank missing nin, from doing other nefarious deeds. Gaara would have laughed if he were the laughing type. He would have smiled cheefily if he were a smiling cheefily type. As such, he settled with smiling psychotically. He sometimes wondered if he should make more of an effort to laugh and smile properly. Then again, it helped with intimidating and threatening people. Nefarious deeds? Gaara murmured in disbelief. The Hokage is really laying this on thick. Sincerely, the fifth Hokage, Tsunade of the Sannin. Gaara really wished he could raise an eyebrow. Of course I wouldn't complain about something like this, considering the circumstances. Gaara mused to himself. Not to mention that Naruto is the one who did this. He grabbed a brush and a blank scroll and started writing a letter towards Tsunade. Chapter 61, Sasuke's Mission, Naruto's Rasen Training. Naruto scowled, clenching his wrist. He looked around the clearing. Irritation seemed to form a dark aura around his body. Put that together with the irritation of the 40-odd shadow clones in the clearing, and any person walking past would have promptly gotten an uneasy feeling. Damn it! Naruto cried, falling onto the ground. This isn't working. He had been trying to get the wind chakra in the Rasengan for 2 weeks now. Kakashi had gotten out of the hospital the week before, but Naruto refused to get any more help from him. Kakashi had tried to supervise Naruto's training several times. However, Naruto just snuck off by himself, as he was working alone, and wouldn't want to be dragged from the clearing because of chakra exhaustion. He was using a minimum amount of shadow clones. Besides, he knew well the dangers of this type of training. He didn't want to be called an idiot yet again for not being cautious enough, which is why an orange toad was sitting at the edge of the clearing, with express orders to go get somebody, if Naruto collapsed or something. Naruto sat down with a scowl. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe trying to combine 2 orbs is the wrong thing to do. Naruto mused. Maybe I need to make the wind chakra into a cube. Naruto shook his head at the ridiculous thought, then continued on brainstorming. I've tried everything I could. No, maybe I've caught on to something. Maybe it's the shape of the chakra that's the problem. He stood up, channeling wind chakra into his hand. With some effort, he managed to change the chakra into a flimsy star-shaped blob. Naruto murmured, slowly sharpening the star of wind chakra. It floated a few millimeters above his hand. He let the chakra disperse into the air, and sat back down. He resumed his brainstorming. Well, that was fun but useless. That moment, a jolt of pain shot through his mind. He felt the backlash of 20 clones dispersing at once. 20 clones that had been heavily using chakra, and were all a bit injured from that particular training. 20 clones that were quite exhausted. Naruto vaguely noted the memory of a shadow clone losing control of their Rasengan before blacking out. The orange toad watched with wide eyes as Naruto fell to the ground. He raced out of the clearing to find someone that could help. Kakashi was heading towards Training Ground 13, one of the training grounds that had the fewest trees in it. If Naruto wanted to train with shadow clones, this would be the easiest place. An orange toad jumped towards Kakashi urgently. Naruto's collapsed. Kakashi blinked, staring down at the orange toad. Naruto? Then the second part of the statement sunk in. Collapsed? Kakashi repeated sharply. The orange toad nodded. Take me to him. Kakashi ordered. The orange toad nodded again, jumping back the way he came. Kakashi quickly followed. Kakashi crossed his arms, sighing. He looked at the scene in front of him in resignment. Oh, Naruto. Kakashi groaned, visibly displeased. I should have known. Naruto was lying on the ground, small cuts and bruises all over him. Kakashi figured that Naruto had trained every day since he had mistakenly given him too much information. Yes, most definitely mistakenly. I should have known. Kakashi repeated, picking Naruto up. Naruto made a small noise of pain in his semi-unconscious state. I'd better get him to the hospital, Kakashi said, turning around. Way to state the obvious. The orange toad murmured. Kakashi looked at the orange toad with an irritated look. You can go now. The orange toad scowled and poofed away. Kakashi quickly left the clearing. Obito was standing in Training Area 24, a training ground with many trees and few clearings. He was currently standing in one of those few clearings, right next to Hui. There were 10 targets set up around Obito and Hui. Obito was holding a yo-yo, ready to hit one of the targets. Go! Hui cried out. Obito nodded and threw the yo-yo. Blue chakra needles shot of the yo-yo. He bit his lip and concentrated on controlling the needles. Some of them shot off into the forest, but just as many hit the targets. The yo-yo itself completely obliterated the target it hit. Very good. Amazing, in fact. Hui exclaimed, clapping his hands. He seemed absolutely overjoyed. I can't believe that you got this down this fast, actually. Obito pointed to his eye. I completely suck considering what I have, but you weren't using your Kekkei Genkai when you controlled those needles. Hui pointed out. All you did was copy the steps to learn how to do that. Well, yes. Obito admitted, bringing the yo-yo back to his hand. The point of this is to make people think that I can't use the Sharingan, then hit them with a Genjutsu when they least expect it. Which is why you didn't want to train with the Sharingan. Hui said, nodding. You told me already. You know. I think I've trained you all I can with this weapon. All that you need to do is improve your aim. Obito hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly agreed. He fished around in his pouch and took out a few ryo. Here you go. Obito said, grinning. Thanks for training me. No problem. It'll be nice to know that my weapon is being used. Hui smiled. He turned away from Obito and started to walk out of the clearing. You'll always be welcome in my weapon store. Hui called back. Thanks. Obito grinned. He waved goodbye. Sasuke shook his purse, hoping that some money would miraculously come out. Nothing came out. He sighed. He supposed he could go to the bank to get some more money, or he could go see if he could do a mission. As a Jonin, he could technically take on solo missions. And really, was it so much to ask to do something by himself for once? Training was useful, but after 2 weeks he wanted to do a mission. That cinched it. He was going to go on a mission or else. As Kakashi was forbidden to go out of the village for another 2 weeks, Obito obsessed with that, yo-yo, and Naruto trying to improve on the Rasengan, it wasn't as if anyone on his team would currently want to go on a mission, other than Sakura, perhaps. But he felt like being alone and brooding for a while. Sasuke paused, remembering what exactly he had been doing for the past 2 weeks. A very slight tinge of red, nearly invisible, colored Sasuke's face. He felt like being alone and brooding on a mission, Sasuke inwardly corrected. Sasuke left his apartment, heading towards the Hokage Tower. After a few minutes of walking, he reached the Hokage Tower. There was a short lineup to get into the office, but Sasuke waited patiently. A few more teams went in and out the Hokage's office, then Sasuke entered. Hello, Sasuke. Tsunade greeted, looking up at Sasuke. What are you doing here for? I want to take on a mission. Sasuke answered. Alone? Tsunade said with surprise. The rest of my team other than Sakura are currently busy. Sasuke answered. Besides, Kakashi can't go on a mission for another 2 weeks, correct? True. Tsunade admitted, picking up a mission scroll. I'll give you a high C rank. Sasuke nodded. What is it? Tsunade threw the mission scroll towards Sasuke. He deftly caught it. Your mission is to guide a low-ranking dignitary to the country of tea. Tsunade explained. Low-ranking dignitary? Sasuke repeated. I thought dignitaries were supposed to be high-ranking. Low-ranking among dignitaries. Tsunade amended. Still high-ranking compared to the average person, but not as much as the typical dignitary. Sasuke opened the scroll, skimming over the details and looking over the map. It'll probably take a week or 2 to get to the village of Chasue. Sasuke commented, closing up the scroll. When will we leave? As soon as possible. Tsunade answered. This dignitary arrived yesterday and has been waiting since. He's in the Kugamo Hotel. Go there quickly. Sasuke nodded and left the room. The Kugamo Hotel loomed in front of Sasuke. He had taken a brief detour to grab what he needed for a long trip. He entered the hotel. The Kugamo Hotel was the second most expensive hotel available in Konoha. The fact that the dignitary was staying in the second most expensive hotel contributed to the fact that this dignitary was low-ranking. The hotel lobby was blue-themed, with azure hangings coming down from the ceiling. There were several circular windows placed in strategic places to let sunlight enter. Sasuke walked up to the receptionist, who shot him a haughty look. "Yes? I'm a shinobi hired by." Sasuke took a glance at the scroll. "Kudamono Ryoku. He's in room 136, I believe." The receptionist hit a bell, summoning a member of the staff. She rapidly conversed with the other staff member, then sent him off upstairs. "He should be down soon," the receptionist said. She looked reluctant as she added, "You can sit on a chair over there." She gestured towards a group of heavily ornate chairs in the middle of the lobby. Sasuke briefly sneered at the excessive decorations. "I'll remain standing," he answered curtly. The receptionist scowled. "Suit yourself." Sasuke watched the staircase intently, as he had nothing else to do. A round figure walked down the staircase. He had a permanent red flush on his cheeks. He wore obviously expensive clothing, but they weren't exactly immaculate. Sasuke decided that Kudamono Ryoku was a slightly lazy individual. He walked up to Ryoku, schooling his expression. "Hello, Kudamono-sama. I am Uchiha Sasuke. I will be your escort to the country of tea." Kudamono nodded haughtily. "I was expecting a team, but I suppose you'll do." "An Uchiha are you?" "Yes," Sasuke replied, resisting the urge to roll his eyes. "Rank?" Kudamono demanded. "Jonin. I assure you, my skills are more than adequate to protect you from any possible attacks to yourself," Sasuke said, trying to be as formal as possible. This was a dignitary, however low-ranking. How he acted could affect future requests for Konoha ninja. Kudamono hummed, not sounding convinced. "Well, I suppose you'll do." Sasuke resisted the urge to inform him that he had already said that. "Let's, sir, I suggest we take our leave," Sasuke said icily. He had been around this man for less than 5 minutes, and it was already obvious that they would not get along. "I don't need to get along," Sasuke decided. "I simply need to complete my mission." "Yes, I suppose that would be a good idea," Kudamono agreed. He waved his hand. A servant came out from behind a pillar. He was pushing a small cart loaded with belongings. The servant started to speak. "Be quiet," Kudamono ordered. "Follow me, you two." Sasuke gritted his teeth. "Stabbing him with a kunai isn't a good idea. Stabbing him with a kunai isn't a good idea." A brown-haired shinobi ran through the trees. His light blue kimono billowed behind him. He was clenching a wooden pipe in his right hand. Mere seconds later, 5 ninja ran right in his footsteps. They wore kirigakure headbands. "Give yourself up," one of them called towards the blurred blue figure in front of them. "You can't run forever." The brown-haired shinobi did not answer. He felt no need to get into a screamed conversation with Hunter Nin that probably had explicit orders to kill him. He agilely dodged the kunai that the Hunter Nin had decided to throw. He sped up. In less than 2 minutes, the brown-haired shinobi escaped into a clearing. "We have you now," one of the Hunter Nin said triumphantly, taking a step towards the brown-haired shinobi. "You know," the brown-haired shinobi said quietly, speaking for the first time. He was completely calm and collected. "I never understood a ninja's need to stop and talk in the middle of a battle." He brought the pipe to his mouth and blew. 2 bubbles formed around him, one inside the other. He quickly floated up into the sky. The Hunter Nin didn't make any effort to attack the bubbles. In fact, they didn't even seem surprised. They had evidently dealt with this technique before, which revealed much about the competence of these Hunter Nin. After all, if they knew that the brown-haired shinobi could do this technique, why didn't they attempt to subdue him as soon as he reached an open clearing? The brown-haired shinobi let a small smile float onto his face. "We'll get you eventually, Udakata," a Hunter Nin yelled. The brown-haired shinobi Udakata gave the Hunter Nin a cheerful wave. He gradually floated off into the sky and away from the Hunter Nin. Chapter 62, Yamato's Appearance. Naruto's Idea. Kakashi and Naruto were currently engaged in a glaring match. Naruto was sitting up in a hospital bed, his hands clenching the blankets. There was a tense silence in the air. "You are not going to train anymore without a responsible shinobi watching you," Kakashi insisted, finally breaking the silence. "The way you train, it causes chakra exhaustion ridiculously easily, and nothing," Naruto interrupted sharply. "I wasn't being careful enough. It was just a single mistake on my part. I'll have to make sure to be more careful next time. Besides, I summoned a Toa." "Did you stop to consider other people?" Kakashi demanded. Did you stop to consider how much irritation you would cause other people who would have ended up bringing you to the hospital? In other words, you? Naruto snapped back, his voice rising. If it worries you that much, I'll make a seal or something that'll automatically burn up if my chakra levels get really low. A elderly nurse slammed the door to Naruto's hospital room open, a furious expression on her face. This is a hospital, the nurse growled, gritting her teeth. Shut up. Kakashi and Naruto both nervously nodded. The nurse slammed the door shut as she left the room. There was an awkward moment of silence before Kakashi spoke up again. Naruto, you know that the your special condition, Kakashi said, somehow managing to convey his emotion while keeping a level and normal tone of voice. What happens if something happens? Nothing's happened yet, Naruto said coldly. I know you're not that stupid, and you're just being stubborn, Kakashi retorted. He sighed and turned away from Naruto's bed. He placed one hand on the room's sliding door. I'm talking to the Hokage about getting an ANBU to watch you. You must understand that there's a possibility of something bad happening with your seal, Kakashi said finally, slowly opening the door. If you try to escape the hospital, expect to be brought back by an ANBU agent. Kakashi left the room, closing the door behind him. Naruto scowled, crossing his arms. He flopped back down onto the hospital bed. Orochimaru sat down on a simple chair in a dark and grimy room. He was scowling. Somehow, he had managed to escape from the explosions. The same couldn't have been said about his various experiments. Orochimaru's scowl deepened. He had received more injuries than he was comfortable with, especially with Kabuto gone. Yes, Kabuto. Without Kabuto, he had lost his main medic ninja, not to mention one of his most useful henchmen. He probably was dead by now. Orochimaru had to admit that he was worried. Not about Kabuto, of course, but about what information he might have revealed about Orochimaru himself. While Kabuto was useful, it wasn't as he couldn't be replaced. Orochimaru had briefly considered retrieving Kabuto, but had decided against it. He had then considered sending one of his henchmen to kill Kabuto, but had decided against that as well. The assassin would probably fail and end up captured as well. Nice village or not, Konoha was awfully cruel towards traitors and people who consorted with traitors. Orochimaru scowled. He wouldn't ever tell a henchman that much again. This was an important lesson. Ibiki walked into Konoha's most high-security containment cell. A thin man looked up at Ibiki. He had stringy gray hair and a maniacal look in his eyes. His cheeks were very hollow. He was tied to a rusty metallic chair. Water dripped down the ceiling of the small room. It plopped down into the corner, where there was a large puddle. The man gave a high, crazy laugh. Ibiki looked at the man calmly. Yakushi Kabuto. Is that my name? Maybe it is? Kabuto said insanely. I know you're acting. I'm sure your mind is somewhat broken, but not this much, Ibiki said coldly. Which is, by the way, quite an accomplishment. I commend you. Some of the maniacal light in Kabuto's eyes dimmed. What do you want? Kabuto asked, his voice hoarse. Just informing you about your impending execution, Ibiki drawled. Why, we've spent so much time together I felt that I might as well give you that courtesy. Lies, Kabuto said instantly. True, Ibiki admitted, no change in his tone of voice. I actually wanted to see if there was any last bits of information you could give me. If I were a lesser man, I would tell you to go to hell. Kabuto spat. I'm going to die either way. I might as well make you frustrated. Ibiki gave Kabuto a cold look. I've been told much worse in my time in the torture and interrogation unit. He started to fish around in his pouch. By much lesser men than you. Sasuke let out a nearly soundless sigh, trudging along the dusty path. Tall trees surrounded Sasuke, Kudamono, and his servant on both sides. He fell back to walk next to the servant. What's your name? Sasuke asked brusquely. Tama Negi. The servant answered, looking up at Sasuke with surprise. He was probably shocked that someone like a Konoha Jonin ninja would even talk to a mere servant like him. Tama Negi, Sasuke repeated incredulously. Unfortunate name, Tama winced. Please. I've heard all the onion jokes you can think of. What do you want? What makes you think that I want something? Sasuke said coldly, dully surprised that the servant had figured out that he had wanted something. Perhaps the servant wasn't as dim-witted as he had assumed. Then again, he hadn't had enough time to paint a proper picture of Tama in his head. Please. You're a high-ranking Konoha ninja. Why would you talk to someone like me if you didn't want something? Tama exclaimed quietly. Kudamono, who was still walking up ahead, looked back towards the two of them with an irritated look. Hurry up, he snarled. I thought you were supposed to be guarding me? If any enemies were to close in onto us, the middle would be the best place to be, Sasuke said smoothly. It would allow me to protect both you and your things easiest, Kudamono hummed, sounding doubtful. He didn't argue more, however, and continued on walking on the path. So, what do you want? Tama asked curiously. Sasuke let out an inaudible sigh, then reluctantly answered him bluntly. Is Kudamono completely clean? Is there any chance of high-ranking shinobi from other shinobi villages coming after him? Why ask me? Tama demanded. Why not ask Kudamono-sama? Just answer the questions. Sasuke said sharply. Fine. Tama grumbled. Kudamono-sama is practically completely clean. He might have occasionally taken a bribe or two, but other than that he's fine. Interesting. Sasuke murmured. I don't know if he's done more than that when I wasn't watching though. But I don't think there's any shinobi who would want to bother assassinate him. Tama finished. Okay. Good. Sasuke nodded, increasing his pace. Thank you? He added as an afterthought. Tama smiled. Sasuke scowled, deep in thought. I'm getting too used to Naruto missions. Not every mission is going to involve S-ranked ninja from other shinobi villages. I just need to take care of any bandits that might attack us. Easy, hopefully. A few days passed, and back in Konoha, Naruto was released from the hospital. He had attempted to leave the hospital earlier several times, but true to Kakashi's words, an ANBU had brought him back each time. Naruto did manage to avoid the ANBU reasonably easily, but there were a limited amount of places he could go. It wasn't as if he was planning to leave the village, after all, but finally, he was allowed to leave the hospital and start training. Naruto was standing in a clearing, in front of a cat-masked ANBU. So, what do I call you? Cat or something? Naruto demanded. His ill temper was evident in his voice. You can call me Yamato, the ANBU answered. Hokage-sama informed me to let you refer to me as such. Yamato, huh? I guess that's not your real name though. Naruto shrugged. So, what's your job then? My mission is confidential, Yamato said, his voice completely monotone. Naruto muttered something that cannot be written under his breath. Fine then. I can guess. Naruto grumbled. Why aren't you hiding somewhere like a typical ANBU then? Confidential. Yamato repeated. You just like saying that word, don't you? Naruto demanded. Confidential. Yamato said again. There was a nearly unnoticeable tinge of amusement in his voice. Okay, it's official. You just like saying that word. Naruto groaned. What now? I suggest you start training. Yamato deadpanned. Naruto rolled his eyes and turned away from the cat-masked ANBU. You might want to step away, Naruto informed, his hands forming a familiar cross shape. Yamato blinked behind his mask. Naruto didn't bother yelling out the technique, preferring to surprise Yamato. 50 clones appeared with a small puff of smoke around Yamato. One landed right on top of Yamato. Sorry about that, Naruto said unsincerely, looking back towards the sprawled form of the ANBU. I can't control exactly where the shadow clones land. Yamato pushed the shadow clone off and stood up self-consciously. I'll back up slightly, Yamato said coldly. He disappeared, leaves swirling in his former spot. The shadow clone which had been on Yamato scowled. Gee, he can't take a joke. I agree. Naruto nodded, a faux pensive look on his face. He grinned. Now let's train. Sasuke's eyes widened as he sensed shinobi nearing their current position. Kudamono was walking in front of him. Tama was walking behind him. They were still in the forest. He raised his hand instinctively. A few seconds later, when Tama shot him a confused look, he realized that no one in his current company understood what he meant. Back with his team, everyone would have stopped instantly. That motion meant stop. Stop! Sasuke hissed. Shinobi coming. Tama obediently stopped, but Kudamono opened his mouth as if to speak. Sasuke jumped towards Kudamono and slapped his hand on Kudamono's mouth, effectively silencing him. 5 shinobi jumped down from the trees. They all wore Kiri Hunter Nin masks. In fact, they all wore the exact same thing. Gray ninja armor, black undershirts, and masks with red marks on them. Sasuke looked towards the Hunter Nin distrustfully. Who are they? Tama whispered. He was obviously attempting to be quiet, but it sounded more like a stage whisper. Hunter Nin. From Kirigakure. Sasuke answered, not bothering to be quiet. What do you want? He directed the last question towards the Hunter Nin. One of the Hunter Nin walked up. We have no qualms with you. Yes, I guess that. Sasuke drawled sarcastically. Have you seen a brown-haired shinobi around here? Mid-20s, pale skin, and wears a purple kimono. the hunter Nin described. So, I haven't seen any shinobi other than you five, Sasuke said coldly. I would appreciate it if you would let my client and I go on our way. Where are you going? A different hunter Nin demanded. I don't see how that is any of your business, Sasuke answered calmly. Goodbye. Sasuke gave the 5 hunter Nin a curt nod of farewell. He motioned towards Kudamono and Tama to follow him around the hunter Nin. They both followed, albeit a bit nervously. The Nuke Nin is heading towards the land of tea. Yet another hunter Nin called out. One with a female voice this time. If you're heading there, be wary, warning noted. Sasuke called back. Goodbye. There was a scowl on his face. Just keep quiet. They're ninja from another country and village, it's always best to be careful around them. Sasuke muttered towards Kudamono and Tama. The 3 of them quickly walked away from the hunter Nin. After a minute or two, the hunter Nin jumped back into the trees. Naruto bit his lip, a thoughtful look on his face. He was still in the training area and was watching one of his shadow clones attempt to combine wind chakra and the Rasengan together. The shadow clone moved his hands fiercely, forming a blue sphere in his hand. He took his left hand away from the Rasengan and channeled wind chakra into his palm. The shadow clone pushed the 2 masses of chakra together and created a small explosion that knocked the shadow clone down and promptly dispersed it. Naruto hummed, musing over his findings. The point is, I'm just going in circles. I tried to combine the wind chakra with the Rasengan, and they make an explosion every single stupid time. Maybe it's the amount of chakra that's the problem. No, the Rasengan has to have that much chakra, and I've already tried lessening the amount of wind chakra. Chakra control maybe? But that's something I really can't help at this point. Tree climbing and water walking only goes so far with my chakra reserves. Naruto quickly formed the Rasengan in his hand, and studied it. Maybe, of course. Why would I combine 2 balls? I need to change the shape of the wind chakra. He flattened out his hand, wind chakra forming a thin blade at the edge. Naruto edged it into the Rasengan, but it was destroyed almost immediately. At least it didn't explode. Well, that was a failure. Naruto! A voice rang out. 40 Narutos turned towards the sound of the voice. Sakura? Naruto, the original Naruto, said with surprise. Sakura waved, walking towards Naruto. She weaved through the various shadow clones. She was holding a basket. She finally reached Naruto. What are you doing here? Naruto asked. I thought you might like something to eat, Sakura answered. She scowled. I wanted to bring you some extra-powered protein pills, but Obito tasted them. He burnt them all up. 5 hours of experimentation, lost. Experimentation? Naruto repeated, trying to sneak a peek in the basket. I've been spending the last couple weeks experimenting with poisons and nutrients, Sakura explained. Cool! Naruto exclaimed. He gave up on trying to sneak a peek in the basket. What did you bring? Like I said, I was planning to bring some extra-powered protein pills, but Obito burnt those up, Sakura said irritably. So I brought rice balls instead. She took off the towel on the basket with a flourish, revealing 8 neatly placed rice balls. She put the basket on the ground. Rice balls? They kind of look like jelly donuts, Naruto commented. Jelly donuts? They look nothing like jelly donuts, Sakura snapped, crossing her arms. Well, they both have a core of something, with something around. Naruto trailed off, his eyes widening. Them. Of course. He crammed the rice ball in his mouth, munching quickly. Thank-ho, Naruto said, his mouth full of rice. Sakura sighed. By now she was used to Naruto's random tendencies. Did you think of something? She asked. Naruto swallowed. Yup. I just have to figure out how to make it work. He stared at a shadow clone, a pensive frown on his face. Of course! Naruto exclaimed, his face lighting up. There would have been a light bulb above his head if he were in a comic. His hand snaked out to Sakura's basket and snagged another rice ball. He stuffed it in his mouth. Ho-eyed fan to Shebhack. Naruto muttered, his mouth full of rice. Sakura sighed. I can't understand a thing you're saying. Ho! Naruto swallowed. Might want to step back. Oh. Okay. Sakura picked up her basket and ran back. She placed the basket back onto the ground. I'll leave the basket here. Eat them later. She hastily escaped into the forest. A smart idea, especially considering the destructive properties of many of Naruto's good ideas. Especially when Naruto told you to step back. Not that they weren't good, of course. It was the fact that they were destructive that was the problem. Naruto waited until Sakura left the clearing, then called over a shadow clone. Okay, listen up, Naruto said in a commanding tone. He whispered furiously to his shadow clone. After a few moments, the shadow clone stepped back. He looked expectant. Naruto channeled chakra into his hand, a white blob of chakra glowing gently. With a bit of effort, he made it float a few centimeters above his hand. The shadow clone moved his hands quickly, forming a Rasengan around the wind chakra. Naruto slowly brought the large mass of chakra away from the shadow clone. It was delicate work trying to keep the chakra stable. He managed to keep it stable for around 5 seconds before it dispersed itself. Naruto was thrown back onto the ground, small cuts appearing all over his body. He simply laughed. While Naruto may have not completed the technique, far from it, in fact, he had managed to get one step closer to the completion of the technique. Naruto stood up and brushed himself off. Hey you! Naruto called out towards another shadow clone. Come over here. In a cave in an unknown location, 6 Akatsuki members stood, one next to the other. They all had identical attire and identical eerie eyes. The 6 Tails Jinchuriki is heading towards the land of tea, the first member said. He had medium-length, spiky orange hair. He had eyes that were completely lavender. Metal rods were stuck into his nose. Yes, another member answered. However, he had long and orange hair. Where are the other Akatsuki members? A third Akatsuki member asked monotonely. This one had his orange hair tied up into a ponytail. They are busy trying to capture other Jinchuriki. A fourth replied. The fourth was bald. We must capture this one ourselves. The fifth decided. He had short, neatly brushed orange hair. The sixth nodded. We will capture the 6 Tails ourselves. The sixth agreed. He had spiky hair that was slightly shorter than the first members. The 6 of them jumped out from the cave in unison.